Good evening. The Philippines remains firm in defending its territory but still wants to dialogue with China. During his meeting with Vietnamese President Vo Van Thuong, Marcos says the Philippines is firm in defending its sovereignty while also seeking to address issues with China through dialogue. The president brought up the December 2023 incident when a Chinese vessel fired a water cannon at a Philippine vessel. China has accused the Philippines of enlisting foreign powers, including the U.S., to help patrol the disputed waters. Marcos emphasizes that the Philippines has an independent foreign policy. Marcos tells the Vietnamese president that the Philippines considers both the U.S. and China as key actors in maintaining peace and security in the region, while also pointing out that the U.S. is the Philippines' only treaty ally. Meanwhile, the Philippines and Vietnam signed a memorandum of understanding on incident prevention in the South China Sea. Both the Philippines and Vietnam have territories in the South China Sea, where China had staked its claim in the majority of the area. President Bongbong Marcos is eyeing a possible investment from Vietnamese conglomerate Vin Group company in the country's public utility vehicle modernization program. According to the palace, Marcos met with Vin Group executives during his state visit to Vietnam. The president notes that the company's interest in operations in the Philippines is saying there is much they can do. During the meeting, Marcos tells Vin Group that the PUV modernization program is still ongoing, with specifications to the vehicles being finalized and the franchises being consolidated. Malacanang says Marcos wants to keep the market open for suppliers in order to complete the PUV modernization program as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Marcos calls Vietnam the sole strategic partner of the Philippines in the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. The Philippine president says the bilateral cooperation between the two countries has ranged from defense, trade, agriculture, and more. Over 200 Chinese vessels were spotted swarming areas in the West Philippine Sea. Navy spokesperson for West Philippine Sea Commodore Roy Vincent Trinidad says that based on latest monitoring, they counted 200 vessels operated by Chinese maritime militia. Trinidad adds that they also observed 15 to 25 People's Liberation Army Navy ships and 10 to 15 China Coast Guard vessels. However, Trinidad explains that it is difficult to give an exact number of Chinese vessels in the West Philippine Sea.
At any one time, it's difficult to give it the exact number considering that ang mga barko naman doon ay they constant motion. At any one time, they would be moving, some of them would be at anchor, especially yung mga maritime militia. So it is difficult to give it the exact number at an exact point in time.
Last August, Armed Forces of the Philippines Western Command Chief Vice Admiral Alberto Carlos said over 400 foreign vessels were observed in the West Philippine Sea, with 85% were from China. Carlos also noted the growing number of Chinese vessels swarming various areas in the West Philippine Sea. A Senate panel summons a certain attorney Anthony Abad for his alleged involvement in the signature campaign for the amendment of the 1987 Constitution. During the Committee on Electoral Reforms and People's Participation's hearing, Senator Francis Tolentino moved to subpoena the lawyer. According to Sagip Party List Representative Rodante Marcoleta, Abad appears to be the proponent of the said initiative as his name is allegedly written in the forms used for the signature campaign. The lawmaker then emphasized to focus on Abad.
I am not defending the Speaker. If this congressional hearing ultimately found that the Speaker is the one who spearheaded this or funded this initiative, I will probably request him to step down. Pero kung hindi po siya naman, bakit hindi po natin kinonsentrate kay Anthony Abad? Siya po yung bida dito eh.
Meanwhile, PIRMA lead convener Noel Oñate discloses that they coordinated with House Speaker Martin Romualdez and other congressmen to push for People's Initiative.
So, it's very clear that Speaker Martin Romualdez is supporting your group po. He is all out behind the People's Initiative. Is that correct?
Yes, we coordinate with the Speaker and the
Thank you very
Congressman
much,
in
and I'll,
getting the
give it
3%
back
per
to-
congressional district. That's correct.
For his part, Romualdez confirms he met with Pirma representatives but clarifies he only stood as a facilitator for healthy democratic process. According to Romualdez, he merely advised them on their ongoing push for People's Initiative but did not mobilize or lead their signature campaign. The lawmaker likewise denies allegations involving him in the purported vote buying related to the People's Initiative. Anchors and reporters from Sunshine Media Network International are asking the Supreme Court to stop the National Telecommunications Commission from implementing its order to indefinitely suspend the network's operations. In a petition, SMNI and their counsel, Atty. Harry Roque, asked the Supreme Court to issue a temporary restraining order against the implementation of the NTC order while the case is pending. They also asked the Supreme Court to stop the NTC from inquiring into the alleged legislative franchise violations of SMNI and scrutinizing the contents of expressions aired over the network. Petitioners add that the NTC does not have the power to revoke an existing franchise. The petitioners likewise challenge the suspension as an attack on the right to freedom of expression and of the press. The NTC previously suspended SMNI's franchise and later extended the suspension indefinitely. The suspension stemmed from the House resolution saying SMNI violated the terms and conditions of its franchise, specifically the provision that prohibits the network from using its stations or facilities to propagate false information. Here's the latest roundup of today's top stories. Philippines and Vietnam agreed to boost cooperation among coast guards and prevent untoward incidents in the South China Sea. Over 200 Chinese vessels spotted swarming areas in the West Philippine Sea, according to the Philippine Navy. And Senate subpoenas Atty. Anthony Abad, alleged proponent of People's Initiative. And these are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado. Follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, X, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good evening.